If history were a horror film, Jack the Ripper would be the shadowy figure in the alleyway, forever obscured in fog. His legacy, though gory and grotesque, is shrouded in mystery and wrapped in more conspiracy theories than a Bigfoot convention. But Jack isn't the only infamous figure on crime's Mount Rushmore. From Victorian slums to modern city streets, serial killers have fascinated and horrified the public in equal measure. So grab your detective hat and maybe a barf bag, because we're diving into the blood-spattered chronicles of Jack the Ripper and some of his notorious criminal colleagues. And don't worry, we'll sprinkle in a little dark humor to keep your spine from permanently shivering. Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper, the infamous Phantom of Whitechapel, terrorized London's East End for a brief but unforgettable stretch between August and November 1888. With 5 confirmed victims, Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly, he earned his place in history through a gruesome blend of horror and mystery. Far from your average killer, Jack's methods involved slashing throats and mutilating bodies with such eerie precision that many suspected he had medical knowledge or at least spent too much time with a very sharp scalpel. He didn't just kill, he performed horror shows in the foggy backstreets of Victorian London. Authorities at the time believed all his victims were sex workers, but modern historians like Hallie Rubenhold challenged that assumption, arguing that poverty, homelessness, and desperation made these women vulnerable, not their profession. Jack added insult to fatal injury by mailing taunting letters to police, and even included half a human kidney, as if Victorian forensics were not already overwhelmed. Despite intense investigations, a revolving door of suspects, and national panic, Jack was never identified, making him the ultimate unsolved case. His crimes sparked outrage, fear, and morbid fascination across the country. The media frenzy surrounding the murders set the template for the modern true crime obsession. Today, his legacy lingers in books, films, and eerie walking tours through Whitechapel. Because nothing screams great family vacation like following the bloody footsteps of Britain's most notorious killer. Jeffrey Dahmer, the Milwaukee cannibal with a freezer full of secrets. Jeffrey Dahmer, chillingly dubbed the Milwaukee Cannibal, turned his apartment into a house of horrors between 1978 and 1991. With 17 confirmed victims, Dahmer didn't stop at murder. He delved into necrophilia, cannibalism, and some truly twisted home decor choices. His living space was a nightmarish mix of body parts, Polaroids of mutilated victims, and even a vat of acid for dissolving remains. If Martha Stewart ever did a Halloween special with the serial killer, this would be it. His gruesome hobby came to a halt when a potential victim escaped and led police to Dahmer's macabre lair. What they found would haunt even the most seasoned investigators. He was sentenced to life in prison, but was beaten to death by a fellow inmate just a few years into his sentence. In the end, karma caught up with him, though not in any way he could have expected. Harold Shipman, Dr. Death makes house calls. Harold Shipman, chillingly nicknamed Dr. Death, turned the trusted role of family doctor into a deadly deception between 1972 and 1998. With an estimated 250 victims, he wasn't just treating patients, he was quietly eliminating them with lethal doses of painkillers. Shipman masked his crimes behind a calm demeanor and a stethoscope, forging cremation documents like he was auditioning for a criminal mastermind competition. Suspicion grew when an undertaker noticed the unusually high number of elderly women dying under his care, mostly during the day and oddly, in their own beds. A lawyer and grieving families soon joined the dots. His downfall was sealed when he clumsily rewrote a patient's will to make himself the main beneficiary. The police finally acted, and Shipman was convicted in 2000. He later took his own life in prison, proving that even a doctor can't prescribe his way out of justice. John Wayne Gacy, the killer clown you never want at your kid's party. John Wayne Gacy, infamously known as the Killer Clown, turned balloons and face paint into symbols of sheer terror between 1972 and 1978. By day, he entertained children as Pugbo the Clown, but by night, he lured young men and boys to his home, where he committed unspeakable acts of torture and murder. Gacy's double life came crashing down when a teenager went missing after last being seen with him. Police eventually searched his house and uncovered a nightmare hidden beneath the floorboards, a crawlspace packed with the remains of over 24 victims. The full body count reached 33. Gacy maintained a facade of normalcy, even being active in local politics. He was convicted and spent 14 years on death row before his execution in 1994. His story is a haunting reminder that evil does not always wear a monster mask. Sometimes it wears clown shoes and a painted smile. HH Holmes, the architect of death in Chicago. HH Holmes, born Herman Webster Mudgett, was America's first known serial killer and easily its most architecturally inventive. Between 1890 and 1894, he transformed a Chicago hotel into a labyrinth of horror, complete with trapdoors, soundproof rooms, gas chambers, and a basement that doubled as a do-it-yourself morgue. Far from offering continental breakfast, Holmes' hotel was a death trap disguised as lodging. During the 1893 World's Fair, he lured unsuspecting tourists into his castle, where many checked in but never checked out. Bodies were disposed of via chutes and furnaces, and some victims were even sold as skeletons to medical schools. Though he confessed to 30 murders, historians suspect many more fell victim to his twisted ingenuity. Holmes was hanged in 1896, but his legacy still sends shivers down Chicago's spine and probably haunts the real estate listing archives to this day. Pedro Lopez, the monster of the Andes. Pedro Lopez, chillingly known as the Monster of the Andes, may be the most prolific serial killer the world has ever seen. Between 1969 and 1980, he claimed the lives of over 300 young girls across Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru, leaving behind a trail of devastation and horror. When authorities finally caught him in 1980, his confession was backed by the discovery of numerous mass graves. Despite this, Lopez was released in 1998 for good behavior, a phrase that, in this context, feels like a cruel joke. Since then, he's vanished into the shadows, his current whereabouts unknown. The idea that a man responsible for such monstrous crimes could still be roaming free is the stuff of nightmares. His case remains one of the most chilling failures of the justice system. And honestly, it's the worst kind of real-life cliffhanger. Ted Bundy, America's most charming sociopath. Ted Bundy, often dubbed America's most charming sociopath, turned charisma into a deadly weapon between 1974 and 1978. With an estimated 30-plus victims, he used his boy-next-door looks and smooth-talking charm to lure young women before brutally murdering them. Bundy's crimes spanned multiple states, leaving a horrifying trail from Washington to Florida. In a bizarre twist, he represented himself in court, turning his trial into a media circus and delivering smug soliloquies like a villainous Shakespearean actor. His case became one of the first true crime spectacles on television, gaining him an unsettling fan base. Bundy was finally executed in 1989 by electric chair, but not before soaking up every bit of the spotlight. He wasn't just a killer. He was a PR-savvy psychopath with a twisted sense of fame. Why we can't look away? So why are we so fascinated with these deeply disturbed individuals? Maybe it's the mystery, the madness, or the fact that we are trying to make sense of the senseless. Serial killers sit at the crossroads of horror and psychology, and the deeper we dig, the more we see reflections of societal failures, poverty, mental illness, misogyny, racism, and institutional neglect. These are not just spooky bedtime stories. They are warnings. While the killers themselves are gone, or hopefully not hiding behind your couch, the lessons remain. Evil doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes it wears a lab coat, a party hat, or a disarming smile. If this creepy stroll through history gave you chills or weirdly fascinated you, don't forget to smash that like button. Subscribe for more spine-tingling stories where true crime meets twisted trivia. Got a favorite infamous villain? Drop it in the comments. No judgment, mostly. New episodes drop faster than Jack the Ripper's footprints vanish in fog, so hit that bell. Until next time, stay curious, and maybe double-check that your basement doesn't have a hidden chute.